Welcome for another video today. It's about the Opus 7 pre-release, which is coming at next day, at Saturday. And it's time for my limited rating again, since example the Opus 6 rating, which I did last time. And we go again with personal rating. First about it's my own personal rating, so Um, I give the gold, silver, bronze rating with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So 1 is the best average choice for a card, and 3 is mostly the side card. And there's also some cards which didn't get a rating, so be aware, and I hope you enjoyed this video. The next thing is we get all cards spoiled from more sites. There was the Mockpot Gaming and I think it was a German website, FFTCG, which revealed all the cards from Opus 7. There are also the rules, so the pre-release sealed rules, and you should something know about that. And using the 6 booster packs in your kit, create a deck and with at least 40 cards. There is no upper card limit, so you can use more cards if you want against some mill, or if it goes into control, you can build more cards in your deck. The next thing is deal 6 points of damage to your opponent to win. So if your opponent goes to 6 damage, it's already over. You know, there are some cards like Noctis, where you get 6 points of damage, and you think, nothing has happened with the X-Burst, but yeah, that's the seed rules. You can have more than 3 copies of the same card in your deck, so if it happens, like my Opus 6 sealed deck, where I get so much Ice Yetis, I think it was 5 Yetis. It's probably hard to deal with it, but it can happen. Backups you can play it using CP of any element, but still only produce their own element. So, as it said, you can only produce with their own element, but it can be played with using of any elements. As this is a sealed format, the hero card promo, which is the light card, I forget his name, included in the kit cannot be used. So it's banned. But if you draw it in a booster pack, you can use it. Other regular game rules still apply. The next thing is also, the rating about the cards, and I heard from some comments from the last video, from a spoiler reveal, something tells about that many stores in the NA or in the NA didn't get their pre-release kits. So this video can be useful here for preparation for building your decks in a limited time. You mostly get about 30 or 40 minutes to build your deck to be ready. And maybe this guide can help you to pick the right choice of cards. I know that's my own personal rating, but I hope I can help you also with the revealed cards. So let's start. So I begin with the first Fracture with Fire, where's Auron, which is the 8k guy, and you can buff blocking forwards, which is strong. Also, 4 CP for 8k is a very good card, so I would prefer also Auron in the deck. So tier 1 maybe for me. Also with Aegis, which has 8k for 4 CP, and you can play a forward of cost 2 from your hand onto the field. If you get some forwards of cost 2, and you're probably playing a 4 or 5 color deck, this can be a very good card here. Very good for splash cards. Also, your Warrior of Light forwards other than Aegis gain Brave, but in most of the cases it's very useless. There's also Frit, where you can search for an Ifrit, but if you don't get an Ifrit in your booster packs, it's only a 2 CP 4K guy, and it's useless, so it's probably more in the tier 3. There's also Ifrit, where you can deal damage. Also, okay, if you get Frit and Ifrit. And the second thing is also the damage dealing and the X burst. Probably I would rate it to tier 2. Next one are Varuna, which is probably easy to activate with 2 CP 8K, and if you deal damage to your opponent, if you play more an aggressive type, it's very easy to activate Varuna from your monster side. There's also Samurai, which is a very good backup where you can push one forward and give it Brave and 2000 power, and if you get more damage, you can push it up. Also, there's Jack. I think Jack is very overpowered with 9k, the legendary card, and you can play Jack for only 1 CP, which is very, very good. And you can deal 1 point of damage. Maybe a good revenge card, huh? There's also Soul, 2 CP with 5k, and if you control another Warrior of Light, not sure if it happens, but it's then a 7k, which can be very good if you get some Warrior of Light cards, but in most cases it's tier 3, probably tier 2 if you get some more Warrior of Lights in your booster packs. There's also the Berserk, 2 CP with 8k. I think this can be also a tier 1 card than a tier 2 card, because if you want to block with Berserk, it's a very good 2 CP block, like a very good Earth card. But Berserker breaks if you deal damage with it to your opponent. So Berserk is also a very good defensive card, right? There's also Borgarven, which is only good for mono fire deck, but 5 CP and 8k, yeah. If you don't get the good cards, this card can be okay. There's also Fang, which you can buff if you get some Final Fantasy 13 characters. In my case, it's a tier 2 card. 7k for 3 CP, it's average, but if you get some characters, maybe the backups, it can be also better. But I think in most cases it's 7k with first strike. Sometimes haste, not sure, but 90% of the matches it will be a 7k or 7k with first strike. There's also the bomb where you can deal damage. This is a high damage deal card, and second opinion, I think it's very, very good. 3k damage and deal 2000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. Okay, yeah. And the discard effect is also very good if you didn't get any fire cards. You can also use the discard effect, so very good splash card. I would rate it also to a tier 2. There's also the I don't remind the name of this card, but you can search for another forward if you discard a card with the same cost of the forward. And it's also a 2 CP backup, and you can search in a multicolor deck for whatever you want, whatever you need. It will be a very good card. The next card is Sarge. You search for a fire summon, add it to your hand, but there's only Ifrit and a fire card in the fire setups of Opus 7. So if you don't get an Ifrit, Sarge is mostly useless. And very hard to get, I guess. So I don't think Sarge will be any that good here. Maybe something for the Final Fantasy 13 effects, but that's only it. A lot of us also, when he enters the field, choose one card name, Chelinka or Yuri in your break zone, play it onto the field. Yeah, you can't play Yuri, the Yuri promo, but if you get one of these cards in your booster pack, which is also a hero card, a lot of can be good, but in most cases it's useless. Lulu is, in my opinion, a very strong card. First, it's a guardian, so very good also for Kimari, the water card. And when Lulu enters the field, choose one forward. Remind that Lulu costs only 2 CP and it's a common card. And you may put one backup other than Lulu you control into the break zone. If you do so, deal 7k damage. So that is very, very strong for cards which only activates if they go into the break zone, or if you want to play with element fixing. If you want to play fixing with 4 color or 5 color decks, Lulu can break some double backups to make it more easier for your multi-color decks and dealing damage. So I think Lulu will be their very, very good card. So tier 1 for Lulu. Next cards are some spoilers, which I saw today. There is the Black Mage, 2 CP with 1 fire and tap. You put it in the break zone and deal 4k damage. That's an okay card. You can trade 2 for 1 with Black Mage and maybe another forward. That's an okay card. There's also the Summoner with 3 CP 7k, which is also average. And when he enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls. If the cost paid to play Summoner include Lightning, dull it. So, okay, that's a neat effect. That's okay. Next one is my revealed card, the Red Mage. I would say it's a tier 2. It's very good if your opponent has in the limited format some cards in his hand. That's okay. And you can deal 1k damage more. So very good with abilities where enemy forwards gets 8k power, something like when you play example you Lulu and you need the 1k damage, you can use your Red Mage. It's totally fine. There's also Rain, 3 CP, 6k, X Burst. When it enters the field, you can search for a Wolf monster and add it to your hand. There are not much Wolf monsters, and they are not strong enough, and you can push it with Rain plus 1k, but you can look ahead for your cards if there are enough Wolf monsters in your booster packs, but in most cases I would say Rain is not strong enough. And there's also the last card, the last fire card, which is Lan with 8k. And if you control Rain, it gets 1k power. So if you gain Rain and Lan, you can play both, but you see, Rain is a hero card. Lan is also a legendary card. That's very hard, very rare to get both cards, right? And when Lan deals damage to your opponent or to your forward, choose one forward. You may pay 4 CP, 3 fire CP, so maybe one backup, one card from your hand, and one random CP. If you do so, deal damage equal to Lan's power. So in most cases, also dealing 8k damage, and that can be very good here. Only the second effect. And I rated to tier 1. Also because of the 4 CP 8k average power. There are also the next cards, which are Ice, and Gremlin is the next card in our bracket here. He's a monster with 7k. And when your opponent discards a card from his or her hand to your summons or abilities, he's become a forward with 7k power, and when he's putting from the field into the break zone, choose one forward opponent controls, dull and freeze it. So the dull and freeze effect is something like, which was his name? It was from Final Fantasy 6. It was this, it was Setsa, yeah. It's a very good card, but hard to trigger because of the discard effect. Not sure if there in Opus 7 so much discard effect. hard to trigger, but the effect is very good. So I would only rate it to tier 3. Black Mage is the next card with 2 CP, 4k guy, standard unit, of course. And when he enters the field, if the cost paid to play Black Mage include water CP, you draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card from your hand. So I would rate this to tier 2, maybe also tier 1, because you draw 2 cards if you pay it with water CP. So it's because of you draw 1 card from your hand, so it's only cost maybe 0 CP. But if you play it also with backups, you get a card advantage, and this is probably very, very good. Also, you can discard your useless cards if you get something in your booster packs. So this can be a very good win situation where this card can help you. And there's also the Emperor from FFL, and if an FFL characters enter your field, or the Emperor, choose 1 forward of cost 5 or more opponent controls, doubt and freeze it. Can happen, but also it's the 2 CP, so it's okay, it's average. I would rate it more to the tier 3, because there's also the Lightning Emperor, but they're not catching the same name, but it's totally fine. There are also some FFL cards, but mostly I ignore it. But if it happens to down freeze some 5 costs, it can be okay. To break the opponent's wall, of course. There's also Eduardo, and when a job barred forward you control attacks, and it's only Eduardo. Eduardo! Your opponent discards 1 card from his or her hand. So, if you trigger the effect where your opponent must discard 1 card from his hand, it's worth, but if it's not, it's only a 8k guy for 5 CP, and I'm not sure if it's strong enough, but it must be blocked if your opponent hasn't got any strong creatures. Can be good, can be bad. I'm not sure about Eduardo, but Eduardo can be good. Next cards are Ice. Next card is Bard, and when he enters the field, choose up to 2 forwards opponent controls, freeze them, and put Bard into the break zone. Choose 1 forward, dull it and freeze it. I'm not sure if you rate tier 3, but probably I would correct it now, maybe to tier 2. I think the effect is not so bad. It's something like Jinnabat without an X burst, but it's costing 3 CP, and you can put it into the break zone to dull freeze something. I think that can be help you with some utility. I would rate it more to tier 2 than tier 3, so I would correct that. Next card is Choose Jaspel. The card name Galdus you control gains 1k power. Galdus is the darkness card, so with the discard effect. So this is also okay because it's a 2 CP backup, easy to play. And when Q Casper enters the field, your opponent selects 1 forward he or she controls, rather than freeze it. If there are less creatures, it can be very, very good. It would be something between tier 1 and tier 2. The next card is Goblin, where you deal, I guess it was 3k damage to a dull forward if you discard it, and the other one I don't mind it, I forget it, but I would say it's a squish card. Also with Shiva, where you freeze 2 opponent forwards, and if it's X-Burst you can dull them also. The X-Burst is very good with Shiva, but if you want to play alone, the Shiva effect, it's probably useless. And I don't like the luck effect of X-Burst, so probably also tier 3. Next one is Snow with 4 CP, and when a forward you control attacks, whatever color or element it is, or whatever from Final Fantasy section. Choose one forward, opponent controls, dull it, and I think that this will be a very good late games, late game control effect. Also, if you want to play party attacks, um, that can be a very good card here. Also with Sarah, um, whatever, how many Final Fantasy 13 characters you control, and you can dull them. The thing is, Sarah is also a Final Fantasy 13, so you dull a minimum of one character, and you can also a character includes everything, right? The backups or maybe monsters or also the forwards. And you can dull two active category 13 characters, choose one forward and freeze it. So can also be a very, very good card. Terra. When you cast a summon, choose one forward opponent controls. Dealt. Can be very good if you draw enough summons in your booster packs, but in most cases it's then a free CP backup, which is below average. But so keep an eye if you get enough summons. Terra would be probably more than a tier 3 card, but in most cases it will be a tier 3 card. Bablis, I would say for the limited format, forgettable, but if you get some Shivas, in my personal opinion, Bablis is not strong enough. Next one is Mystic Knight. Free CP, 6k, and when he enters the field, choose up to 2 backups if the cost paid to play Mystic Knight with including win CP and activate them. So you play a 1 CP 6k guy, and the cost required to cast ice summons is reduced by 1. But I'm not sure if there are any ice summons. But wait, there's only one card, which is Shiva, but you can choose 2 backups and activate them. So in most cases, Mystic Knight helps you with fixing your backups. I would say it's something between tier 1 and tier 2. Fixing is very important here in the limited format, because you're mostly playing a 4-5 color deck. Yoy is also a, I would say, tier 2 card, 2 CP with searching for 1 forward and putting under the top card of your deck. So very good before your opponent ends his turn. If you need some key cards, maybe also one of your splash cards or maybe one of your strong cards, Yoy can be there very, very good. Lassell with 2 CP, 4k, but you can choose one dart forward and deal 5k damage, and if you control 5 or more ice characters, which is probably not happen, you can deal 7k damage instead. So it's 2 CP dealing 5k damage for a dart forward, only for a 2 CP guy, but you can also discard it to generate CP, so it's an okay card. Time Mage, also an okay card, 3 CP, 5k. When he enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls, dull it and freeze it. Okay, seems okay for me. Dull freeze effect is mostly between 1.5 between 1.8 CP worth, so yeah, why not? It's okay. Next one is Black Mage, where you can choose one dull forward and deal 2k damage. I would say it's a tier 2 card if you play with 2 ice backups, but if you don't, it's more like a tier 3 card, but dealing 2k damage is a very good trade effect if you play more control map, more passive. Next card is Kefka with 5 CP, 8k, and when he enters the field, if the cost to play Kefka was only paid with Ice CP, your opponent may discard 2 cards if he or she doesn't freeze all the forward opponent's controls. So forget this effect, it never happens because you can never play that with only Ice CP. Maybe It will happen for 0.1% or something. But the second effect is more interesting. When Kafka enters the field, if the cost to play Kafka was paid with CP of exactly 3 different elements, choose up to 1 forward, up to 1 backup, and up to 1 monster. Dull them and freeze them. So you can 3 guys into the dull and freeze effects, and you must pay exactly 3 different elements. So you need 1 ice card from your hand to discard, and 3 different backups, and one of them must be ice, but that can be more happen, and you get so much control effects. And for 5 CP with an 8k, this will be probably a very good card. I'm also happy that Kafka is here as an ice card for Final Fantasy VI for the standard decks. Can be very, very good here. Wow. Jinnabat is the next card. When Jinnabat enters the field, select one of the 2 following actions. For each Psycom, you control your opponent discard 1 card from his hand, or dealing 4k to all the dull forward opponent controls. So, yeah, it's most cases not worth it. The first effect is, yeah, your opponent discard 1 card, but it's also cost 4 CP. You math it with the 1 card, so it's only about 2 CP, but it's only do after that mostly nothing. So it's maybe okay for some Final Fantasy 13 activities or something like Fang effects. So, but mostly just put it aside. Next card is Yunalesca with 7k free CP, and when he enters the field or attacks, choose 1 forward. You may discard 1 summon from your hand, which happens very rare, and if you do, don't freeze it. So it's mostly forgettable, but free CP for 7k is okay, so it's tier 3. And the last card is Sephiroth, which is the legendary card. 7 CP is a bit high cost, but 8k, okay. And if he enters the field, your opponent discards 2 cards from his or her hand, so that's 4 CP worth, and so it's about 3 CP or maybe 4 CP for an 8k guy. And when he attacks, choose 1 forward opponent controls, and if your opponent has no cards in his hand, which can be also very good in a limited format, dull it and freeze it. So also a very good card here. Just check it also with the other cards if you get some discards effect, and yeah, you will check it also in your limited format. You play mostly your cards instantly, and it's not like the standard, yeah, the standard plays, because also of the multi-color decks. Wind cards, Alexander. Choose 1 forward of 5 of cost 5 or more opponent controls, return it to its owner's hand. If Alexander returns from X-Burst, break it instead. Very rare that it happens, but if you can, it would be a very good sideboard card, but in most cases forgettable. Vata is a 4 CP, 8k guy, which is okay, which is average. And if you play it only with wind CP, only by wind cards, you activate all the wind backups you control. Very hard that you activate so many wind backups in a 4 or 5 color deck. So, but the 4 CP 8k is mostly worth it. Next time is the Ranger 2 CP 4k. You choose 1 monster of cost 3 or less opponent controls, and the cost paid to play include Earth CP. You break it. So there are many monsters. I think there's only 2 monsters or maybe 1 monster with cost 3 or less, with 4 or more. And when Ranger attacks, you choose 1 forward opponent controls, and you can deal 2k damage, and you can mix it with some other cards dealing more and more damage. Can be good against little stuff. Next one is Kalga. hero card, 8k for 6 CP and very expensive. And to reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and you can play one job Dawn Warrior among them onto the field and return the other cards to the bottom of their deck in any order. Is it possible to get a job Dawn Warrior? Depends what you draw of your booster packs, and the Dawn Warrior are also in most cases hero cards, so it's only a 6 CP 8k guy, so yeah, it's a tier 3 card. Can be better, but in most cases it's a 6 CP 8k guy. Next one is the Condor, a 4 CP monster with 8k, and when a backup enters your field, if you control 5 or more backups, Condor also becomes a forward with 8k power. Yeah, there are enough other 4 CP guys with 8k power, and when he attacks you activate all the wind characters. Also very hard to activate or get a very good trigger of that, because you play in most cases a multi-color deck. So in most cases not worthable. Next one is Cactua, where you can deal the next damage to a forward to 0 instead, also with the effect. Also a 2 CP backup, which can be very, very good. Next one is Thief. Only good for some mill tricks. Also the second thing with, if both cards are of the same element, draw one card. Very rare to get that in a multi-color deck, which would everyone plays in his limited format, right? Next one is, I think its name was Vu, but if you discard Vu, you can activate 2 backups, which is very, very good. And if you play Vu for 2 CP, you activate, I guess, all backups. And this is very, very good. You get more card advantage, and yeah, sure, you can play a longer turn or can play more cards from your hand. I think this card will be very, very good. Next card is Kalinka, and if a category FFCC character you control deals damage to a forward, damage increase by 1000 instead. It's okay, but next thing is when Kalinka enters this field, you deal 1k damage to all the forward opponent controls. So it's trigger into the trigger, right? No, it isn't, because first effect is only when it deals damage to a forward, so it's a single forward. The second effect is to all forwards, so the 1k doesn't summary with the other 1k. So it's in most cases it's a free CP 7 guy, 7k girl, of course. And when Kalinka forms a party with card named Yuri, which is a light card, and you must draw it, and it attacks, choose one forward or monster, break it. The thing is there a chance to draw Kalinka, which is a legendary of your booster pack, and draw Yuri of a booster pack? Will be very, very rare, so... But it's a free CP 7k. I would rate it into the tier 2 effect. Next one is Chocobo, 2 CP with 4k, and you can choose one forward other than Chocobo with a dull effect, and it gains 3k power until end of turn. When that forward leaves the field this turn, put Chocobo into the break zone. I think this Chocobo is very, very good. You can push it to plus 3k power, and the second one is there are not so much effects where you can instantly destroy Chocobo, so there are not so much dealing damage effects, maybe something like 2k or 3k, but if you play a Chocobo in your board, it's also a board field presence, and you can use the effect reactive. So You attack with your guys, and your opponent choose if he wants to block or not to block. If he wants to block, you can dull your chocobo, and if your opponent activates a summon or some effects, he maybe lost some cards and also some CPs, or maybe some dull put it into the breakdown effect. So, and that's also worth. I think chocobo will be a very good card here, very good rare. So keep an eye of it if you see it. Next one is Dorgan, Dawn Warrior, hero card. Full CP 8k, and when a backup enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Dorgan is on the field. So, how hard is it to remove an 8k guy? That's a very good question in a limited format, because if you don't block with Doggone, if you don't attack with your Doggone, and you play so much backups, you remove and remove and remove so much forwards, it can be a very good card. And just for the board present, and if your opponent has no answer, Doggone can be here a very big problem. So I rated maybe I rated to tier 1. Would be a very good card. I will test it in a limited tomorrow. Ninja is the next card. Full CP for 8k. And when he enters the field, choose one forward. And if you the cost played to pay it Ninja include fire CP, you can deal 4k damage. Yeah, there's maybe the answer for Chocobo, but there's also a chance that you don't get any ninjas. So also the effect of ninja to deal 4k damages, it's okay. And it's a multi-color card. Can happen, cannot be happen. Alaria is the next card, which is the mother with experts, and when she enters the field, you may search for one Chelinka or one card named Yuri and add it to your hand. Yeah, Kalinka, legendary. Yuri is probably the hero card. So in most cases it's useless, but it can happen that you can draw it. Also the Yuri, but also it's a nice side effect because it's a job mother if you draw Hope, because Hope is a rare card, Alaria is a common card. So I rated to tier 3. Bartholomew is the next card, also from the Final Fantasy 13. We talked a lot about that in this video. When he enters the field, you may play one card named Hope from your hand onto the field, so just for nothing. That's good. And the second one, if you don't get any hope from your booster packs, you can put it into the break zone and choose one forward activated and gains 1k power extra. That's a very good niche effect and very good for the presence, for the board presence. So I wrote rated to tier 2 with a plus if you get a hope, and the hope is the next card. And if you control job father and mother, Hope is then a 9k guy and cannot be chosen by your opponent abilities, so very big forward. And if you don't control a job father and a job mother, it's also a 3 CP 7k guy. That's also average. So I would rate it to tier 2. Ram is the next card, type 0. Okay. When it enters the field, you may discard one card, and if you do so, search for one Jobs Class 0 carded and add it to your hand. So there's nothing in Opus 7, no Job 0, Job Class 0. So it's in most cases worthless. You can search from RAM to RAM, but it's only a 2 CP 5k girl, so forgettable. Next card is Nash for full CP X Burst 7k, and when Nash enters the field, choose one forward of cost 1 opponent controls or one monster of cost 2 or less opponent controls. Break it. So that's hard to trigger, because the question is there any forward with cost of 1? I guess it's no. But you can break some monsters of cost 2 or less. That's probably worth it. Also 4 CP with 7k is below average. The Express is a neat effect. So I would rate it something between tier 2 and maybe also tier 3. Winddrake is the next card. 2 CP backup with X-Burst. Oh, that sounds good. And when Winddrake enters the field, choose one forward. It cannot attack until the end of your opponent's turn. Can be very good if you need some defensive. Um, Also, if you get an overrun by your opponent, Windray can be here very good X-Burst. Also, it's a 2 CP backup, so I would say this is fine. 2 CP. And yeah, also tier 2. Next card is Ahanalam, which only get a good worth effect if you control Yuri or Kalinka. You can deal 2k damage. That's okay. If you deal both, you deal 2k damage to all the forwards opponent controls, but I think that's very rare. If you get one of the two following characters, Kalinka or Yuri, Harnalam would be worth it, but in most cases, it's useless. Next one is Dancer. You deal 1k damage to all the forwards opponent controls. Not sure if it's worth the 3 CP. I would rate it between tier 2 and tier 3, but there are so many more effective cards, so would rate it more to tier 3. And there's also Bards, which I would rate to tier 1, because you can choose up to 2 category 5 characters and activate them. So Bards is probably then the mostly 2 CP worth. Or maybe 1 CP if you control 2 Final Fantasy 5 backups. But also if you attack with the forwards, you can activate them. Also pretty good. And 3 CP for 7k, it's okay. The specials, you can totally ignore them. Yeah. Next one is Earth. And we start with Asmodai. 5 CP with 8k, and if he enters the field, you choose one Dar forward opponent controls. And if it costs to play Asmodai with only paid with Earth CP, break it. So you can't play Mono Earth. It's probably insane. It can be happen. It can be happen, but not sure if it's happen. If you get so much Earth cards, it's totally worth it. But I would rate it more to the tier 3. Galov is a 5 CP legendary card with 9k, and Galov cannot be broken during your turn. Wow, that's very good. So you can play Galov very aggressive, and when Galov attacks, choose one forward. You may pay 2 Earth CP, and if you do so, it must block Galov this turn if possible. Wow, I think about that card, and I guess, is this probably the win condition card? Because there's mostly no answer, because it cannot be broken during your own turn. Wow, only in the opponent's turn, and I think it's very hard to deal with Galov. I think this is a very insane card. So, okay, it's tier 1. There's also Krill with 4 CP 8k, and the cost required to cast your summons can be paid with CP of any element. Very good for a multi-color deck. And when you cast a summon, choose one forward, it gains 1k power. Also okay, but there are not so much summons. And you can discard one summon until end of turn. Krill cannot be chosen by your opponent abilities. Can also be happen, but also the 4 CP with 8k is totally worth it. And you can cast your summons by paid with CP of any elements. That's very good for a multicolor deck. I would rate it more. So it's totally worth it. It's tier 1. Trust me. It's also Warrior of Light, and there are also some Warrior of Light cards, so don't forget it. It's also Final Fantasy V, also worth it for Bards or something else. If you get some cool combos, tell it. There's also Korka for full CP. When Korka enters the field, you may search for one Earth forward and add it to your hand. I would rate it also this to tier 2, and the big plus here is there are many very worth Earth forwards where you can search for if you get them. If not, then Korka will didn't get in your deck, but if you get some very good forwards, pick it up. There's also Sagna, and if you play a character of 6 or more, it will be a forward with 9k power. It very hard depends on what you draw in your sealed deck. Can be worth, but I would probably forget about this card. But the only thing is here, I thought also about Fang because it's Final Fantasy 13, right? Something like Sarah. If you get something worth Final Fantasy 13, can be worth here, but most cases. There's also Shantoto where you play what you play it for 2 CP, and you can pay 1 CP to generate another element. Very good for fixing CPs if you need the right color. So I think this is also a very good card, very good backup, start backup also for a multicolor deck. So also tier 1. There's also Xezat, and with 4 CP 8k guy, it's average. Also, it's a Dawn Warrior. It's also Final Fantasy 5, and so much effects. It's very good for the multicolor deck in the sealed format. Gain 2k power, dealing damage at the Dawn forward. Choose one forward, activate it, block it with it. Choose one, activate forward, deal 4k damage. There's so much viable effects, and it's very good for the multicolor deck. So wow, this card is amazing in the limited format. So tier 1. And there's Tama. And if you put Tama into the break zone, choose one category Wolf card in your break zone. Add it to your hand. The thing is, okay, you can pick a card, but it must be a Wolf card. If you get something like Lan, can be worth, but there's so much other Wolf cards in the set which are mostly crap, I guess, but just check your cards when you draw your booster packs or when you open your booster packs. Telika, 2 CP with 5k. You can discard light and dark element cards from your hand to reduce CP. That's okay, yeah, okay. But it's very rare in your packs to draw a light or darkness card. So it's only a 2 CP 5k guy or 5k girl. If you need some extra cards for your 40 card deck, you can pick it too. Necromancer is 2 CP backup, and you can put it into the break zone. You can choose one standard unit in the break zone and play it onto the field. Ooh, not sure if it's worth it. The 4 CP, the dull effect, and put it into the break zone. So it's 5 CP. Very hard to play this effect. I would say this is only tier 3. Next one is Moogle, and the job Moogle backups you control can produce CP of any element. The problem is this is the only one Moogle card in the set, so complete forgettable. Next one is Bahamutian Soldier, 2 CP, 5k, and if you control a monster, Bahamutian Soldier gains 2k power. Can be good if you get some monster. There are also the forwards, which are also the monster in all situations. But if you get the good monsters in Opus 7, this card, the soldier, it's also a common card, can be very good worthable. Prish, 9 CP and 9k, and you deal only 9k damage. It's a hero card, and I'm not sure if you want to play this card. Just put it aside. Flan is a very good card to give one blocking forward 1k power, which can be a good support card, and also the first effect is a very good effect with the free CP cost the paid tax that the opponent forward cannot attack or block this turn. Can be a very good monster. Would rate it to tier 2. There's also the Monk. Full CP 8k. When it enters the field, choose 1 damage forward, and if the play Monk includes lightning CP, you can deal 5k damage. Yeah, that's very good. Also, the thing is, in a multi-color deck, you get something like the fire cards, the lightning cards, some dull effects where you deal just 1k damage and you can deal another 5k damage. So Monk will be there, very, very good. Yojimbo, which in X-Burst, where you can deal some more damage to opponent forwards. Also very good with the X-Burst, where you can deal 3k damage. And also it's very worth for full CP. I would rate it between tier 1 and tier 2. Next one is Vanille. Full CP with 7k, Final Fantasy 13 of course. And when she enters the field, you choose 1 dull forward, it must be dull. Select 1 number, and that's very hard, and reveal the top card of your deck. If the revealed card is of the same cost as the select card number, break it. So it must be the same number with the top card of your deck. But if you can look at the top card, there are some cards in water and yeah, it's probably water. Then it can be here very good because you can break just the dart forward. If you can mix it with some effects, can be special, but in most cases it's probably a randomized effect where you can break a forward with some luck, but in most cases it's a tier 3 card. Carbuncle, 2 CP, only a back attack backup. I would say that's a tier 3. It just do nothing, but it's a 2 CP backup. Summoner, where you can freeze it if you play included ICP. That's okay. And also free CP 7k. I would rate it to tier 3 because there's some other free CP forwards which are more worth than this summoner, but it depends what you draw on your booster packs. There's also the Geomancer where you can put it into the break zone and push 1 forward with plus 2k power. That's a very good card. Also, if you play something with combat tricks or something else, it can be a very good card. Yeah, there's also Noctis, legendary, X-Burst, and 7k for free CP is average. It's 2 CP. Not 2 CP, but it's tier 2. And when you receive damage, you choose up to 1 forward. If you have received 6 points of damage, break it. So totally forgettable because you're already dead in the limited format if you receive 6 damage, right? And when you receive damage, choose up to 1 forward opponent controls. Noctis and the chosen forward deal damage equal to their respective power to the other. That can be very good with just the little guys your opponent controls, and that can be a very good advantage here. Yeah, why not? And also for 4 CP during this turn, the next damage due to Noctis becomes 0 instead. Can be also very good if you want to do a 2-for-1 trade and protect Noctis. Also a very good effect. So I would rate it to tier 2. Next one is the Lightning. And we spent now so much time. Wow. I hope you didn't quit the video. Next one is Red Mage, 5k for 3 CP, and if you include water CP, you return it to its owner's hand, and you can pay 2 lightning CP, dull it and put it into the break zone and break 1 forward of cost 4 less. There's so much effects. That's okay for just a 3 CP Red Mage guy. I would rate it to tier 2. Yeah, just an Odin effect. That's okay. There's also Argy. And when Argy is put from the field into the break zone, select one of the three following actions. And yeah, it's very hard to put Argy into the break zone. Something can happen with maybe Lulu or something like this. But in most cases, it's very hard to trigger the Argy, so it's tier free. Xdev is a very good card for 6 CP, and when he enters the field, choose one forward from the opponent and your break zone, and if its cost is equal to or less than the number of backups you control played onto your field. Whew. And also the thing is, you trigger maybe some effects, and it's totally worth the 6 CP that you can search for 2 forwards. Wow, absolutely worth it. Very good endgame card. If you get your 3 or maybe 4 backup and you play XF as your last backup, you get so much big monsters and you play it onto the field. You don't get it to your own hand, and that's very, very good. Totally worth it, tier 1. Coriol. It's a very good monster where you can push just one forward with 3k power, haste, first strike, and brave. That's a very good effect. And you can use this reactive if your opponent tries to block. That's totally worth it. It's something like tier 1 or tier 2. Also, if you don't get so much lightning backups, you can just card Coriol and choose one monster of cost 1 and break it. But yeah. Which monster costs 1 in Opus 7, huh? Next one is the Emperor. 5 CP for 9k guy. That's very good. That's average. And when he enters the field, you choose 2 forwards opponent controls, dull them. That's a very good effect. Very good if you want to play. It's more the control card. Also the aggressive card. But it's mostly the I would say the endbringer, the finisher. And during your turn, when your forward opponent controls become dull, so there are some cards, also in ice, which you can switch to dull, or also maybe in lightning. Choose one active forward opponent controls and dealing 3k damage, and you can also mix it with some other cards to dealing some more damage. This is totally worth it. Tier 1. Zapped is also a monster in all situations, and if it dies, you can search for a Ramu, 2 CP, 4k guy. If you have a Ramu in your deck, or picked Ramu in your booster pack, probably it's worth it, but in most cases it's 2 CP, 4k guy. So this is in most cases useless. Dragoon is a 2 CP 5k guy, and when Dragoon enters the field, choose one forward if the cost paid to play Dragoon included win CP. It cannot be blocked this turn, so that can be very good about some critical cards. I would say something like Eduardo. When Eduardo hits your opponent and you make him unblockable with Dragoon, okay, that's worth it. There are also some other forwards where it's a pretty nice card, Dragoon. I would also maybe rate it to tier 1, but it depends what cards are you also picking. If you're picking enough wind backups, but Dragoon is a tier 2 card. Barbara is only for pushing Dragoons. There are 2 less cards in Opus 7. So maybe tier 3, but in most cases forgettable. Maybe okay for the FFL, but nah, not strong enough. There's also okay. I have a blackout. I don't know his name, but it's a friend of Sarah. It's Noel. Okay, yeah, and it says haste. For 6 CP, you get a 6k guy with haste, and if it plays onto the turn, he gets until end of turn plus 3000 power. And if you're dealing damage to the opponent, you break a forward. So 9k haste for 6 CP, very good card. And if you're doing damage to your opponent, you break an opponent forward. Enough to say, tier 1. The Gladiator is also here. Full CP with 8k, and when your opponent casts a summon, Gladiator gains 2k power until end of turn. Yeah, can be okay, but they are not so much summons, you know it. From each color, only one card. But full CP for 8k, also good. Can be very good card if your opponent must pay or must play an answer to something. Gladiator would be then a 10k guy. Okay. Tier 2. Tancred is also a free CP. 6k, and when he enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls, dull it. So the dull effect is okay. It's in most cases 1 CP worth, and 2 CP for 6k is it's okay. The other thing is not tryable. So it's a tier 3 card. Seymour is a 2 CP guy with X-Burst, and when Seymour enters the field, search for one summon and put it on top of your deck. So if you get something like Ifrit or something else, some EX burst summons, Seymour can be here a very, very good card. And you can play also X-Burst into X-Burst. In the standard cards, I also thought about something like Seymour and Matthias, the 5 CP. There's so much very good combos for later with Seymour, which includes the high cost paying X-Burst. In a limit format, it's also okay. And it's a 2 CP backup. And if you play it in your own turn, you get maybe an absolute protection maybe for your next X-Burst. If you know the opponent's board. Your opponent doesn't know which summon you place on your top on the deck. But if you know all the summons, you can think about it which card is on the top of the deck, right? Next card is Sid Previna. Oh my gosh, we are only at the 95th cards, so so much to do. Over 25 cards to read, and you can choose one lightning backup of cost 3 or less on your break zone, play it onto the field. Hard to deal it. You can do it just with and the accuracy side with the cannery or maybe with the Mystic Knight. Second effect is only dealing 2k damage. It depends on that what you're drawing in your booster pack. So I would rate it between tier 2 and tier 3. Also with Flanberg, if you're drawing enough Flanbergs, you can draw Flanberg into searching. And I think Flanberg is also easy to trigger, because when a forward of cost 3 or less opponent controls is put from the field into the break zone, he becomes a forward with 7k power. That's an okay card. And you can search for another job militarist Flan. So if you get more Flanbergs, can be very good. There's also the Cannoneer and the Mystic Knights, where you can deal some damage, or maybe break some damage forwards, something like the Black Mage effects. Also 7k power is also fine. You can also combine the Cannoneer with the Flamberg and you get automatically a 7k guy for 2 CP. Also worth it. There's Mid Previna. for 3 CP, and when it enters the field, you choose one active forward and deal 3k damage. And when it's entered into the break zone, just like maybe the Lulu effect, you choose one active forward, deal 6k damage, also very good. And you can discard 3 cards you played onto the field, but the third effect is mostly the useless effect, but can be a very good card if you get the right cards. So it's rated to tier 2. There's also Lightning, where you can gain your 13 forwards haste. Depends on what you're drawing from your boosters. But in most cases, it will be useless. So, only tier 3. Ramu is a very good card. Full CP, X burst, and you choose one forward, you lose 7k power on the end of turn for this forward, and if it results from an X burst, it's lose 8k power. So you can set forward to dying, but it's also a very good combat trick, and it's also a very good X burst card. So very valuable, very good toolbox. You can play some mind games, I think, with this card, and it's losing power, not dealing damage. So this card will be a very good card. Tier 1. And next one is Ramza. And 1 CP, 2k. Oh, there's also there's a 1 CP forward. I forget about that. If Ramza has 4k power or more, he gains haste. 6k or more, he gains brave, and it's 8k or more, he gains first strike. But you can only push it for 2k for 1 lightning CP, and that's very hard to push it in a mono, and not in a mono lightning deck, but in a in the limited format where you place your your 5 or maybe 4 color decks. Very hard to push your Ramza. And there's also the last legendary, which is Gilgamesh. Very good for the standard, but for limited it's completely forgettable. So it's very, very weak in the limited format, so forget it. There are also the water cards. There's Gavin. 3 CP for 7k, which cannot gain any damage from forward abilities. Only the abilities, but it's okay. And it's only average power, so tier 2. And also Kimari, very good, where you can protect your own Final Fantasy X characters and can be reduced if you control some Job Guardians, maybe some other of your hero cards. Can be good, also 9k power, very good beast, so tier 2. Also Chemist, yeah, very good for something if you want to play a wall. And you get also some combat tricks of activates and dulling effects where your opponent tries to deal your forwards damage. Chemist will be a very good card here. 2 CP is also very good worth. And yeah, tier 2. Sargain, where you can push 2 forwards, whatever which element they are, you can push it with 1000 power. And you can also discard it to choose 1 forward of cost 1, so there's only Ramza, and return it to its owner's hand. So second effect is forgettable, but the first effect can be very, very good here. So just push 1k power for 2 CP and activate them. So you can use it in the opponent effects, yeah. Geos Sangyo with 7k for only 2 CP, and it will be a forward only if you bounce something to the owner's hand from the opponent. So very hard to trigger, I guess. And yeah, it's only tier 3. White Mage is a okay card for a 3 CP, 6k, and when it enters the field, you choose up to 2 forwards you control and activate them. That's an okay card, tier 2. There's also Styx with 8k, 5 CP, and you cannot play the special effects. Very hard to trigger it, and The first effect's only if it's only played with water CP, so completely forgettable in a limited format. Maybe it's okay for the 5 CP and 8k power, so maybe a niche card, but nothing more. There's also Sarah, where you can search for a Warrior of Light forward and play it onto the field from your deck. You know, there's some Warrior of Lights, but if you get them, it can be an okay card, but 7 CP is very, very high cost, so maybe it's possible the tier 3 format. Dusk is a very good card with 3 CP, 6k power, and when it enters the field, if you control a job Warrior of Light forward other than Dusk, draw one card. It can be happen where you can get a Warrior of Light, but it's mostly forgettable. But the second effect is also very good. During this turn, the cost required to cast your next summon is reduced by 1. So that's maybe something like a support card, Warrior of Light. Maybe also the if you trigger the draw one card, it's a 1 CP guy for 6k, so that can be a very good card here. Also 3 CP for 6k is also not bad. You can reduce the summon cost, also good in a multicolor deck, so I think it's between tier 1 and tier 2. There's also Tidus, where you can play Tidus from your hand onto the field only if the CP produced by water backups. So you definitely not playing Tidus onto the field, whatever what happens in a multicolor deck, probably not possible, but if you get your free water backups and you can play Tidus with back attack, can be good, but yeah, the effects are activate all water forwards, or choose one water forward and it gains 2000 power until end of turn, so you can play your back attack Tidus with a 9k, but it's hard to play Tidus on your field, right? There's also the other Tidus, where you bounce one of your forwards back to your hand, but you get a full CP guy for 9k power, and that is very, very strong, and you can trigger maybe again for some interesting effects. So would rate Tidus, the other Tidus with 9k power, to tier 1. There's also the Ninja. And when Ninja enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls. If the cost paid to play Ninja include 5 CP, it cannot block this turn. Also very good if you want to trigger something if you're dealing damage to your opponent. And you can bounce your Ninja back and you can play it again and again. Very good in control matchups. Maybe also if you want to play some aggressive types and you get a trigger if you dealing damage to your opponent. So, wow, not bad. Tier 1. Harikanazus is 3 CP, 7k, so it's average. And when he enters the field, or she enters, I'm not sure if it's... Oh, it's a queen, of course. When she enters the field, all the forwards opponent controls lose their abilities until the end of the turn. That can be very useful. And also the second one, discard 2 summons, choose one forward, break it. If you get enough summons, it depends how many summons you get, but it can be a very good card. It's also a free CP for 7k. The opponent forwards lose all their abilities, so that's hard to do a trigger on that or to react to that. Very, very hard. So I would rate Harikanazus between tier 1 and tier 2. But maybe it's tier 1, maybe it's tier 2, I'm not sure. Next one's Ferris. If you control Lana, Ferris gains 2k power. There's no Lana in Opus 7, so it's only a 6k girl with 4 CP. And you can reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. If it's Final Fantasy 5, you can return it to your hand, but In most cases, it's just 4 CP, 6k. It depends on your luck a bit, but if you can trigger it onto the top of your deck, you know the ice backup like Yoyo, where you can put maybe your Final Fantasy 5 cards on the second top of your deck. You can trigger Faris into that, though, but in most cases it's tier 3. Braska. The cost required to play your job summoner onto the field is reduced by 1. There are some summoners, but they are not worth. So in most cases it's tier 3. There's also Meme for 4 CP, 8k, and when Meme enters the field, if the cost paid to play Meme include Earth CP, all the forwards you control gain 2000 power until end of turn. Wow, that can be a very good finisher here, right? And also 4 CP for 8k, wow, very, very good. There's also Yakrosh. You choose one backup other than Yakrosh you control, return it to its owner's hand, so you can trigger something again. You trigger into another new card. It's also Yakrosh is a very good card for fixing. If you're fixing your multi-color cards, very good. It's also Final Fantasy 13. It's only a rare card. I would say this is tier 1 card, and it's totally worth it. Oracle. For 2 CP, when Oracle enters the field, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, return these to the top and or bottom of your deck in any order. So you can do something on the right place on top of your deck if you want to be sure. Something like the Final Fantasy 5 card with the top decks. You know, there were some cards like Kalga, some other Dawn of Warriors, the last card, which we say with Faris. There are some combos, and maybe Oracle is here, maybe the right choice. And also, if you don't get any Final Fantasy 5 cards, Oracle can be here a very good card. So you put your bad cards at the bottom of your deck and put the good cards on top of your deck. Or you can also put your bad cards on top of your deck if you know that your opponent will attack you. Very good. There's also Leviathan, where you can choose one forward of cost 4 or less and return it to its owner's hand. If it's an expert, you can also draw a card. Totally worth it. That's not bad. There's also Whacker for 2 CP, and you can push a category 10 forward. Not sure if there are enough X forwards or Final Fantasy 10 forwards, but it's below average. I would rate it to tier 3. And there's the last one, which is the legendary Agrias from Water. And if you control 7 or more characters, Agrias gains 2000 power. So it's a 9k for 6 CP. If you get your full 5 backups plus Agrias, so you get 6 characters. So you need just one another forward if you get your full board. And 9k for 6 CPs also, okay. And when Agrias enters the field, turn over one card at a time from the top of your deck until a character of cost 3 or less is revealed, and you can play it onto the field. Then shuffle the other cards revealed and return them to the bottom of your deck. So, can be squishy, can be a bit squishy, because if you get 4 backups and just 2 other forwards and you play Agrias, it's good if you trigger the backup. If you get your full blanket of backups with 5 backups, it's less worth than the other option. You can also trigger into a monster, maybe trigger into a forward. So I think there's much potential about this card. Something between tier 2 and tier 1, but it's more into the top size of the cards, so it's mostly tier 1. And now we are going to the last cards. Um, they are the light and the dark cards. Yuri is here a very good card. Yeah, you cannot use your promo card, but 8k for full CP is also very good. And it has all the elements except dark. You can dull a total of 3 active backups of the same element or 2 backups of the same element, which is more profitable, and Yuri, so mostly the second one. And you can select one of the 4 following actions, and the draw effect is so much. I think that's so much potential. You can also dealing damage, you can some, yeah, dull freeze effects, or losing all abilities. Very good control card, whatever you need. In most cases, I would say the draw one card is very, very good. And you get so much cards. If you get 2 or maybe 3 cards, it's hard for your opponent to win that game. So let's say this is of course a tier 1 card. Yuna, yeah, 2 CP, 6k, but it's hard to trigger a summon because there are also some. Yeah, there are only 6 summons in the Opus 7, so hard to trigger it. And the second effect is also hard to trigger with the remove of 3 summons, so it's in most cases 2 CP, 6k. It's probably tier 3, but the first effect about reveal the top card, it gives an info for you and for your opponent if you want to trigger something. Also with the Final Fantasy 5, you know it. But I guess it's mostly a tier 3 card. Next one is Gyarados, the hero card. Which is a very, very good card. 3 CP, 8k, wow. What is this? And your opponent discards randomly 1 card from his or her hand. You can choose 1 monster, add it to your hand, or choose 1 forward and it lose 5k power. Enough to say that's the top card. It will be instantly in my get if I draw that. Totally worth it. Tier 1. And there's also the ice card, the Chew Gyarados, or what it means, where you can push your Gyarados plus 1k power, so it's a 3 CP 9k guy. So wow, that's insane. There's also the Sin, where in most cases I don't think this card is anything worth here. I think this is maybe the self-destroying card. Where you break all the forwards other than Sin and you're dealing yourself damage. I'm not sure. I think this card is too slow to play it in the limited format. There are also the starter cards. The thing is, it's very rare to get one of these starter cards. It must be the foil card, you know that. Yeah, there are also the Warrior of Light and Fury, and that's totally okay cards with tier 2. Ultimecia cannot be played because you must receive 6 points of damage to react with 2 of the following actions, and the other thing is you can only select 1 of that effect, so too slow. Also, the Emperor is too slow because in the limited format you discard too many cards for just break some guys. That's not worth it in the limited format. There are also the other cards. I would say Cecil is a very good card for activate 2 characters. Very good also for the fixing, so you get less problems. And also if you receive 5 points of damage before you're dying, it's a 10k guy, so it's the strongest guy then here, and it cannot be chosen, so can be the invisible wall maybe for your limited deck. Very good. And there's also Ishtola, where you can deal many damage. And for 2 CP, very good backup. Garland, the big wall, with 9k. And you can push another guy to play a bigger wall. This is insane. Garland will also be a very good card. The thing is Golbur strong enough because you only play your 40 card deck, not your 50 card deck, and if you play Golbus maybe for 5 or 4 CP, it's in most cases over. I'm not sure if Golbus here is strong enough. So in my case, it's a tier 3 card. So, and that's it. That was, or that were too many minutes to rate about the cards. So that was the full set of 138 cards. I give it my personal rating. It can be maybe false in some cases. That can be true. But if you find some interesting combos or maybe some interesting effects while you're pre-release, just tell it in the comments. So thanks for watching, and that you see all that complete, I think it's maybe less than an hour, but it's a long video. So thanks for watching, and you can share it if you want. Whatever on site or maybe in Reddit. I think someone tell my spoiler also in Reddit. So thank you very much. And see you next time. See ya, and don't forget, have a nice pre-release in Opus 7. Bye.